Let's do a walk around of the Nikon D90 and show you what all of the buttons on the camera do in control. So here's the back of the camera. First thing I did was turn the camera on and press the top left button over here, this little arrow inside of a box. And it is the display button. So for playback, we would press it and it brings on the display and shows you the last picture that you took. Right under that is the menu button. And we press that, it brings up our menus. And the next here is the help and image lock button. Now, these three buttons over here actually have two different functions. They have a function in playback and they have a function in record. So the function in playback is shown on the button itself, and the function for shooting images is shown above the button. So these have dual functions. Again, this is the help and lock button, but it also is the white balance control button. So if we are in shooting or playback, it has that different function. Now these two buttons are complementary. One is the zoom in button and one is the zoom back out button. If I press that, we'll show you this in detail later, it zooms in and out on the image. But also these change the ISO or sensitivity of the camera and the quality for shooting. Our incredibly new high-res 3-inch screen is covered with a plastic protector over here, which can be snapped off if you like, but of course you can leave it on to protect the screen. Right above this row of 4 over here is the garbage can button. When you press that, it's going to ask you, do you want to delete the image? And if you hit it again, it will indeed delete the image. Here is our viewfinder, and it has a nice little rubber cup over here, protective cup on it. But right to the right top over here is an important thing, and that's the diopter adjustment. When you first get the camera, you need to adjust this by rolling it like this while looking through it. If you wear glasses, leave glasses on. If you don't, of course, you're not going to use them. And roll that little control until the image is tack sharp through the viewfinder. It's a one-time set it and forget it thing unless you go to somebody else operating the camera that has different eyesight. Right to the right of that over here is the auto focus and auto exposure lock button. That can lock the exposure and focus, and we'll tell you why you'd use that later. Here's our live view button. As soon as we press that, it shows us a live view of what we're looking at. It's also used to take movies. Here is our multi-position control over here. It has little arrows and the OK button on it. And it is used for many, many different functions, for navigating around the menus and for controlling other things like focus point. In fact, right under is the little lock switch over here. And when you throw it into the lock position, it allows and disallows the multi-position controller from picking the focus spot on the image that you're going to be taking. So you can enable that or disable that by throwing the little lock button. Under that is the information button, and that's for our shooting information. It shows us right away a display sort of duplicating what we see in the top LCD screen on top, which I'll show you in a second. And as well, the display always has two different modes, sort of a brighter against dark and a dark against bright mode. We'll talk about that in detail later. Something you might not notice right off the hand is a little red LED hole over here, and that shows you when the camera's writing to the SD card, this will be flashing. You never want to take this card out while this is flashing. Right over here is the sub-command dial, and that's rotated like this. It's used for many different functions, but as you see, we're going through the pictures we've taken with it right now when we're in playback mode. This little metal D-ring is where we attach one side of the strap, which comes with the camera. We showed you before that you slide this open and you can put your SD card in it. Right underneath is the microphone grill, because you have the ability to shoot movies with sound with this camera. Amazing. Let's go to the top. We'll start on the top left. This is the mode dial, and this allows you to go through a whole bunch of different shooting modes, all the way from manual to fully automatic, portrait, and many different things, which we'll show you in detail. And you line it up with that little white bar. Here is the hot shoe for using flashes, which can be mounted on top, your accessory flashes like so. And I do highly suggest that you get a nice large Nikon top-mounted flash and pop it on there. This little cover slides out. As well, this is the internal flash unit right here. You're going to see that this part is sort of cut out from the background. If you press the flash button over here, this will pop up when the camera's turned on. Now, let's go to the right. This is the main LCD display up on the top right for showing you your shooting information, and it contains a whole bunch of stuff, which we're going to show you in detail later. Just to the right of that over here, we showed you the on and off button itself, but something to know about that is that when you turn it on and rock it a little bit further, it turns on the green backlight on the LCD. So if you're shooting in dark conditions and you need to see for a second, it'll go ahead and kick that on for a duration so you can see your shooting information. This is the metering button over here, and that selects between the different modes of metering. This is our compensation button for doing exposure compensation. Our drive mode here for taking continuous pictures or single shot pictures and doing the self-timer modes, and our autofocus button so we can quickly access the different types of autofocus that the camera has. And let's rock it around the front over here. This, of course, is the grip, a really nice ergometric grip over there. But under the grip, there's a couple of buttons which your fingers can easily get to, and that is the function button. It's labeled FN over here. And that is used, it's customizable, but it's used to control a bunch of things we're going to go into detail with. This is your depth of field preview. That stops down the lens, closes the iris on the lens so you can see the actual depth of field that the image that you're going to take is going to have. Let's roll it around to the other side over here. I'll talk about the controls on the bundled lens first here. This is automatic and manual focus switch on this zoom lens, and our vibration reduction on and off over here. Remember that if you're shooting with a large time duration, that you should have this on so it stabilizes if you're not on a tripod, but that does use a little bit extra battery, so keep that in mind. Also, the camera body has a automatic and manual focus switch on it, so you can switch it from there to deactivate the autofocus in your lens. This is the lens release. This button we push in and then rotate the lens to remove it. Here's our bracketing button. This allows us to quickly set the bracketing using the main and sub-command dial, and we'll go into that in big detail later. It's marked BKT. Here is our flash release that opens up the top-mounted flash inside the camera, but also allows us to do flash compensation and boost or diminish the flash. Here is our I/O, or input-output area cover, and it's conveniently marked inside and out so you can see what these connectors are. One of the really cool features this camera has is there is a GPS accessory plug cover here. Under that is the connector for an optional top-mounted GPS which mounts on the hot shoe up top and allows you to embed the exact position of where you took the picture. What a nice feature for legal shooting and things like that. As we open up the cover here, this is a splash guard basically and dust guard. The first thing is your DC connection so you can operate the camera off of a power supply. The next is your high-speed USB. This also has an HDMI using the HDMI C-type mini connector to go directly to a high-resolution television so you can display your images, and as well comes with the standard video out, and that's supplied with the cable with this camera, and you can go directly to an old standard style television with that, what we call composite video. Seal that back up, and we can go to the bottom of the camera over here. Again, there's our battery door. We just throw that release, it pops open. Here's our non-slip grip and our 1/4-20 thread mount for using the tripod. Standard thread mount for all tripods, so you're not going to have any problem. Again, on the top above this I/O connectors is the other metal D-ring for attaching the strap that came with the camera. So there we go, all of the buttons on the D90, and now we'll go into detail as to how to use these and why you'd use these.